Imagine this, a home that doesn't just sit in nature, but breathes with it. A place where walls are not barriers, but gateways, opening wide to let in the ocean's breath, carrying the salt of the sea and the whisper of palm leaves swaying somewhere just beyond sight. The air is warm, not heavy, alive with the scent of rain lingering from a storm hours ago. Sunlight doesn't merely filter in, it dances, scattering golden trails across smooth wood, polished stone, and panes of glass so clear they dissolve the line between where the home ends and the horizon begins. You can hear the world, soft and unhurried. A distant wave rolling onto sand, the soft call of some unseen bird, the wind tracing its fingers along the roof as if to remind you, gently, that you're not alone here. It feels open, alive, untamed, and yet somehow safe. Did you know that 70% of homeowners feel their space doesn't reflect their style? Don't be part of that statistic. Subscribe and start designing a home that truly feels yours. It's not just a house. It's not just walls or a roof or the usual blueprint of bricks and beams. It's an escape, one that feels stolen from the pages of some dream you didn't realize you had until now. A retreat that seems to hum in harmony with the wild around it, welcoming you into its rhythm, slowing your pulse, softening your thoughts. But here's the thing. It's not some sprawling resort, not a luxury villa on the edge of the world. Beneath the tropical glow and that seamless modernity lies a secret most wouldn't believe. Because this sanctuary, this place where nature and design blur into something almost otherworldly, it's also a barn. Yes, a barn. But not the kind that smells of hay and echoes with the sound of hooves on wood. This is a barndominium, a space where rugged simplicity is reimagined, stripped of its expected roughness and dressed in something entirely new. A home that doesn't fight the tropics, doesn't tame them, but lets them lead, lets them shape every curve, every beam, every shadow cast on its walls. And as strange as it sounds, that is exactly what makes it feel so alive. What makes a home more than just walls and a roof? Sometimes it's the way it feels before you've even stepped inside. The Tropical Modern Barndominium isn't just a structure. It's a mood, a pulse, a way of breathing alongside the world around you. It doesn't shout for attention. It draws you in, slowly, like the tide pulling at the shore. At its heart, it holds the quiet strength of a barn, honest, grounded, and unpretentious. Heavy timber beams, steel frames, and open spans create a framework that feels rooted, resilient, almost timeless. But those bones, they're dressed in something unexpected. Rich teak, warm and weathered, soft to the touch beneath your hand. Concrete that feels cool underfoot, softened by vines and shadows cast by swaying palms. And those windows, not just windows, but entire walls of glass, rising from floor to ceiling, sliding away until the edges of the home disappear, and you're no longer sure where inside ends and the tropics begin. It's a balance that shouldn't work, but somehow, it does. The rugged honesty of the barn, reimagined with the elegance and ease of tropical modern design. It's wild, but safe. Remote, yet rooted. Standing here feels like standing inside a secret, an escape crafted for you alone, where no one can find you unless you want them to. The air feels different here. Lighter, cleaner, as if every beam and surface was designed to let nature flow, not fight it. Every detail is deliberate. The overhanging roofs that shelter you from a sudden rain, the open floor plan that lets the wind become your natural air, the way every room faces a view that feels stolen from a postcard. A beautiful home is not a dream, it's an art, and you're the artist. Subscribe and start creating spaces that speak to the soul. And yet, it never feels like a resort. There's no pretense, no crowd, no trace of something staged. It feels personal, intimate, like a home that listens more than it speaks, one that was built not just to house you, but to slow you down, to make mornings stretch a little longer and nights hum with the sound of crickets and waves instead of traffic and screens. Living here, it feels less like owning a house and more like being let in on a secret the world forgot to tell. But how do you create a space that feels both untamed and refined? How do you take raw steel and solid timber and make them hum in harmony with the tropics instead of standing in its way? The answer isn't in the walls themselves, but in the way they vanish. Every tropical modern barndominium begins with openness. Not the kind you simply see, but the kind you feel. The kind where the line between inside and outside fades until it no longer matters. Wide, sliding panels disappear into hidden pockets, turning living rooms into verandas, kitchens into garden walkways, bedrooms into open-air sanctuaries. The home breathes with the landscape, every breeze winding through its halls, carrying the scent of rain and wild orchids instead of stale, recycled air. The roofs stretch far beyond the walls, like wings. They're not just for shelter, they're for the climate itself, offering cool shade under the midday sun, and a soft, rhythmic drumming when the rain arrives. There's a thoughtfulness here, a quiet intelligence in every overhang and angle, designed not to keep nature out, but to make living alongside it effortless. Even comfort feels different here. Forget the hum of air conditioners. Cross-ventilation and the home's orientation invite the wind itself to do the cooling, weaving through spaces with a softness machines can't replicate. It's comfort that feels alive, connected, never artificial. And then, there are the moments that transform it from shelter into sanctuary. A stretch of water that vanishes at its edge, an infinity pool mirroring the sky as it turns to gold. A hanging daybed swaying gently in the shade, just far enough from the main space to feel like a retreat within a retreat. Vertical gardens that climb the walls, not as decoration, but as living, breathing elements. Softening steel, wrapping timber, and blurring every man-made line with green. Every corner whispers adventure, but every line feels deliberate, as if nature and design met somewhere in the middle and agreed to work together instead of competing. The result isn't chaos. It isn't minimalism either. It's something in between, something that feels alive yet balanced, as though the tropics themselves decided to build a home and simply invited you in. These homes aren't just built, they're curated. Every beam, every opening, every path of air and light exists for one reason: to make you feel alive. To remind you of what mornings can be when they don't start with alarms, but with the scent of rain drifting through a window you never bothered to close. To remind you of what nights can be when the only light isn't from a lamp or a screen, but from the moon painting silver across the water. Transform your home. Transform your life. Subscribe now and let's create spaces you'll love forever. This isn't just design, it's something deeper. It doesn't beg for attention with sharp lines or polished perfection. It doesn't isolate you in a sterile white box the way so many modern homes do. Instead, it draws you out and in. Out into the air, into the green, into the textures and sounds you forgot could calm you. In toward yourself, toward that quiet, grounded part of you that feels most human when the world slows down. A tropical modern barndominium is not a house you simply occupy. It's one you experience. You don't just walk through it. You sense it. You hear the faint rustle of palms at night, and it feels like a lullaby. You taste the salt carried on the breeze, and it lingers in a way that feels grounding. You feel the warmth of teak under your feet, the cool of concrete when the sun has set, and every texture reminds you that this is a place designed to be touched, not just looked at. And maybe that's what sets it apart from the usual idea of modern living. It's not about sleek sterility or curated perfection. It's about immersion, a design that heals without announcing that it's doing so.